Now, I must at this stage ask you, do you think restructuring, the way it's been debated, the way it's been put forward, the way it's been looked at, and the way people have looked at, the way people have tried to bring it forward as a solution to some of the things you've mentioned, even in terms of our democracy, unleashing the potential of the people, empowering them to go their way, and so on, and then solving some of these very basic problems which seem to have dug themselves out of the ground because everything seems to be so choked up. Essentially, the argument about restructuring presupposes that more power will leave the center and come down. There are debates about how much, and so on. But is the idea viable?
Of course it's viable.
I ask because many ideas may appear viable until you start to apply them.
Yeah, okay, fine. It's like saying, is marriage viable? Okay, is marriage viable? And
until you marry, of course,
until you marry, then you realize that a boyfriend is not a husband, you know, and that a marriage is, a wedding is not a marriage. You have the difficulty, but you pull back, and there are higher goals. Now, anybody pretending that restructuring is a solution to our problems, it isn't, because there are no solutions. There are coping mechanisms that you can, design. But let me tell you, when, people focus on power, but the irony now, if we don't know, is that as somebody has written a fine book, we're seeing the end of power in the way and manner that we understand it. Here in Nigeria, people think of power and they think about it only in relation to ability to give a big check, ability to sign a contract, ability to put people in NNPC, ability to give oil wells, so this is power. But it's absolute nonsense because it doesn't carry with it the moral authority. The most important thing, of course, is that, okay, look at the day that Mark Zuckerberg, a young boy, the day Mark Zuckerberg went to Congress, it affected the stock market.
Yes.
Now, the mystery, the mystique of power no longer exists. So if you talk about restructuring, again, we are captives of vocabulary. And then by the time you translate it, it becomes a problem. And here in Nigeria, when you throw a concept, after some time it becomes a weapon. Okay, you say, okay, we want a sovereign national conference. Then everybody begins to congregate around that. Interestingly, people think that the North, and I think that maybe their body language suggests that they are not interested in restructuring.
Correct.
And if they don't want restructuring, you kill the debate by saying, it means dismembering Nigeria. But in reality, the beneficiaries of restructuring are actually the Northerners.
How so?
Because as the chief of army staff and the president and everybody has accepted, Boko Haram is a product of poverty. Now, the poverty levels in the Southwest, these are statistics that you can obtain in the World Bank and so on and so forth, are hovering between 13, 14, and 15 or 17%. What is Zamfara today? It's a cesspit of violence. But the poverty levels in whether it's Zamfara or Sokoto or Kasida or Kebbi, the average state in northern Nigeria is hovering between 70 and 80%. So it is actually in our interest, to understand that the one thing we have monopolized in Nigeria is poverty. Because if being in power were enough, the Northerners have been in power more than anybody. So the power you're talking about is the power of ideas. And, a lot of the things have been so demystified now. And I'll give you an example. 9/11, the destruction of the Twin Towers, it cost Al-Qaeda $500,000. That was their budget to destroy the Twin Towers. From reconstructing the Twin Towers to finding Osama bin Laden, it cost the Americans $3.3 billion. $trillion.
Trillions. Yeah.
So the world is changing. It's now a world of ideas. It's no longer a world of you are monopolizing power because you are a Muslim. People who are thinking of monopolizing power on the basis of religion, whether it's region or religion, whether it's because we'll have to, it will take us a few years, but I can tell you in the next 10 years, after whether Buhari wins the elections or loses the elections, even if Buhari wins the elections, the next election in Nigeria will be completely different. Simple example I give you. You will listen to, and I hope it happens, and you guys are the ones organizing it, and I'm looking forward to listening to the conversation or the debate between the Vice President and Peter Obi. Because then, I'm looking forward to it, because then I know the quality of minds that I'll be listening to, because here we are now at a threshold of the future where is ideas knocking ideas, okay? Not where we are no longer gradually moving away from people being wheeled into power because the clique has decided this is the person who is going to be our president. So that is when everybody will have to start paying their dues. So for me, it's not the real, what we are calling restructuring is what is about the future. That is, how do you create an environment in which everybody can excel according to what their God-given opportunities are. And for me, the people who think that restructuring is about breaking Nigeria, or that this will be the beneficiary or that will be the beneficiary, are grossly mistaken. It is a conversation that is already happening. It's a conversation that must happen. And as you can see, why this government won elections on the grounds of, as many people say, young people and the social media. Now, why did young people become so enthusiastic? And whoever gave them this expression of change got the right mindset. Because young people are impatient. They are irreverent, let me put it that way. But they are impatient because your 5-year-old kid now can handle your phone better than you can. We are now in a knowledge economy. So all the institutions of retardation, whether it's culture, tradition, and so on, all those things have to give way. So essentially, restructuring is about the intellectual replacing our traditional forms and norms of doing politics. So whether we like it or not, even if Nigeria will remain 36 states or whatever, but it's a mental conversation that we must have whether we like it or not.